The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on
This is
Sunday.
about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Guns up and giddy up. What is going on, everyone? This is the Failure to Stop podcast. I'm so glad you joined us today. Would you be ours? Could you be ours? Won't you be our listener?
Man. Do you know that Mr. Rogers said that there was boys and girls? There was only two sexes, boys and girls.
Yes, I do have a recollection of seeing a few of those clips where
imagine if you said something that audacious in today's present time. Imagine if you said that. Hi, boys and girls.
Yeah, imagine. Just imagine. Just imagine. I don't know. I got nothing. So besides the controversial thing that boys have a penis and girls have a vagina, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. Just healing from this arm. You know, really just staying in the fight, battling.
You got the hard cast on yet?
No, I didn't go to the orthopedic surgeon. So I don't even know if I need pens yet. I ran out of time last week.
No, you didn't. No,
I did. I ran out of time.
All I'm hearing is you mismanaged your time last week.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
Because needing to get, the next step done in repairing your arm should fall within the ability to schedule that at a doctor and just go do that.
Yeah. But you know what? My family's learning a valuable lesson. So, what it's like to be the caretaker
to put off
that person.
Medical care.
No, they can now be thankful when this is all over that they don't have to take care of a permanently disabled person. But right now, they're seeing what it's like to take care of a disabled human being. So they're kind of going through what Helen Keller's family went through.
Very similar. Very similar.
So now they just kind of get a taste of that. Makes them more thankful.
Oh boy. Well, anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. I don't have a lot of new things going on my end. There's everything's year end for me, man. Just trying to get some undone tasks. I got a big pile of things that I just let pile up in 2022, dealing with that. Ready for the holidays. I'm excited. I'm ready to get into the Christmas spirit. I'm not there yet.
Gotta get there, bro.
I'm trying to get there. I like it. I like it when I get there. I really enjoy like that vibe when I get there, but I'm just not there yet. So I'm working on that. I got to see a therapist, and we'll get there.
The rapist.
Yeah. As far as the show today, we are talking about The Boy in the Box, right? That's what we're going to be breaking down. Is that what we call this? The Boy in the Box?
Yeah. A little bit different than our normal case breakdowns for Fridays, but how this being the biggest, true crime and the majority, a lot of people that listen to the show are really into true crime because of our true crime episodes on Tuesdays. But this is like one of those stories, man, that is just, hail to law enforcement, hail to just the teamwork. It's an incredible story. It's one that I have been following for many, many, many years. And the case has a major step in the case has come through last night. And everybody's talking about it. Unless you live under a rock, you probably know this story. It's been on Unsolved Mysteries. And it's just, he's known as America's Child. Like literally, that's what his tomb says.
Never heard of this.
America's Child.
Never heard of this story.
It's a great story, and it's
last night.
It's a very, very exciting. So,
yeah, I tend to not pay
good
attention
episode
to
today.
People found in boxes. Well, we'll talk about it. We're gonna break that down. We have 3 other episodes through the week that you can listen to as well. If you're new to the show, Mondays you can hear Off the Cuff. We break down law enforcement related news and events and give hot takes on those things. And Tuesday nights, like Eric already mentioned, there's True Crime on Night Shift. All things true crimey. Thursdays is Last Call. Eric always gives us the cultural finer things, so that you can sound like a normal person at the weekend barbecue or at the weekend what do you do in the wintertime? We don't have barbecues in the winter here in Michigan.
Oh, that's
We
sad.
just hide inside. So
Well, this yesterday's episode was like basically all about Christmas, and man, the outpouring of messages from yesterday's episode, I thank all of you guys, man. I just think it's really cool. I didn't realize that many people would be affected by that episode, but you guys have made my Christmas, man. The stories you guys are sending me, the things that you're doing with your family, thank you guys so much. Thank you.
nice.
Reviews.
Yes. Reviews. I'm having a brain fart. But yes, reviews. And if you want to support the show, this is one of the great ways to do it. So what do we got? Raj will dodge 5 stars. Not good looking enough for TV. Well, that's not a great start. I'm so thankful for affirmative action as it pertains to looks. These two guys, are great to listen to, but really hard to look at. Not surprised that they are into handcuffs and tasers, but I am surprised at how entertaining the podcast is. Great show. Keep them coming. Yeah.
I'll keep you coming, Raj.
Oh, gross. No, thanks. I will not do that for you, Raj, under any circumstance. Not even
From
if your
two
life
gays
depends
to
on.
another.
I'm serious. Like, if someone's life depended on it, and it was like, I'm going to die unless you jack me off, and I would let that person's going to die if I'm the other guy in the room. They will die.
I mean, it's just medical at that point.
No, it's not. I couldn't do it. I would kill myself afterwards, even if I let them
Really?
live. I'm just going to shoot myself in the face. I'm going to eat a gun.
I mean, if it's to save a life,
Nope.
do it.
Nope.
Huh.
Nope. They're dying. I'm dying. We might both die. No one's making it out of that.
Why
real
did you
life.
come up with that scenario?
That's a weird scenario, man. That is a
Because you
weird.
said
If this
fantasy.
guy's gonna
weird?
die,
What's
the only way
weird
to
that
save him
Eric
is to
says
jerk
he
him off.
would keep another man coming
Why
for
are
more
you-
reviews, or
why
that
are
I
you
said
thinking
there's
about-
no. I just took the inverse and
No,
said
you're just
under
thinking
no
about jerking dudes off
under
on
the
your
most
deathbed.
important extreme circumstance of life or death, I wouldn't do that.
Raj has ruined Christmas. Thanks, Raj.
Thanks a lot, Roger.
Thanks, Raj. You jerked Christmas right off.
Next review.
No, one more review.
Hendo 80 84 56. It's prisoner number. Not a PI, but I play one on TV. Pull up a chair. Let Uncle tell you about this ragtag crew that's the Failure to Style podcast. What started from a glaring hole in society with the lack of an adult view at the world has grown to a wolf pack with Andrea, Drew, and soon Jonathan. Can't forget UPP working on the magic behind the scenes. If you're a cop or in the cop world, this is the light at the end of your tunnel. That is the shift you're on right now. Press play, then subscribe, and get 10-8. You've got calls stacked.
Yeah. Get to your calls.
Yeah. Being the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, are you sure? It
That's
could be the
intense.
oncoming train, too.
You might need to get your car off the tracks.
You get out of the way.
Rest in pieces, Colorado.
Eric will keep me to save it.
Of course I would, dude.
I'd pee on a dude if he got stung by a jellyfish.
Which is like totally not a real thing. But growing
I
up
watch
surfing in
I watch
St.
Friends.
Augustine,
It's real.
It's real. It's real. Jonathan Cobb Center says, Mike just said my name.
Don't get
Holy
too excited, Jonathan. There's a lot of guys with your
calm
name.
down, Jonathan. Nobody likes you. Go back to your third responder career and shut the fuck up. Dispatcher, not a real hero. Let the real heroes run this show.
Mm.
Oh, that was mean. That was really mean for Friday morning.
Was it?
I thought so. I even felt mean saying it. Even though I meant it, I still felt bad saying it.
That's all right. All right. Do we got any sponsors we need to think about before we dive
Today's
into this,
show is
or-
brought to you by ghostbed.com/wolfpack, which have got those savings, scary savings through the holidays.
It's
So head over to
beginning to look a lot
ghostbed.com.
like Ghost Bed everywhere you sleep.
I caught mom doing Santa on a ghost bed.
Take a look at the lady over there. Hope she's not dead in your bed.
You know that song, I Caught Mom Kissing Santa Claus? Doesn't that make mom like a cheating whore at that point?
Yeah, it makes Santa have a really good night once a year too.
Huh.
It's a lot of houses. That's a lot of ladies.
Don't be kissing on my mom, Santa, dick. And then iTarget Pro, which, you know, if you want to sit around in your underwear on your couch with a laser bullet pointed at a target and practice your target acquisition and your trigger squeeze and all the things without having to waste money on ammo and driving to the range, head over to itargetpro.com. That's the letter I, targetpro.com, and use that promo code Wolfpack and get you one of them iTargets, which are super rad. You can get any caliber of gun. You get the little fake bullets, and even your wife, if you want to let the girls shoot, if you want to teach the women to shoot, you know, it's 2022.
Our women folk know how to use guns around here.
Yeah, iTarget Pro, man, it's pretty awesome. Those are our today's sponsors, and today's show, again, it's the boy in the box, the story of the boy in the box, and what's kind of led us to where we're at right now with the big release of information. I don't want to blow our wad too soon, so
I'm ready.
You ready to jump into it, Mike?
Yeah, man. All I know is that there's a kid in a box. That's I am at the end of my knowledge.
That's
right there.
crazy that you don't know this story, man. Did you never unsolved mysteries in your life?
Robert Stack's Unsolved Mysteries. Yeah, I watched Unsolved Mysteries as a kid. I mean, but I don't. I couldn't tell you like what the episodes were. I don't know.
It was a big one because theories kept coming out, so they would just, you know, like keep doing updates, unsolved mystery updates. Which I love, the unsolved mystery updates. You know, people say like true crime is like it's this new thing and like everybody's into it. Like people have been into true crime forever. Like that's why Unsolved Mysteries has been
true
going
crime
on
has always been true.
forever.
Everybody loves it.
Right. Inside
Rescue
Edition.
911.
Yeah.
I was definitely into Rescue 911. Loved William Shatner in that.
And then there was like Canine Rescue 911.
Was there?
It was like, yeah, it was like a
I don't remember that.
spin-off.
That was after my time.
Yeah, it was about like a dog. I was always into true crime. I really liked Baywatch. That's
true beach crime.
Baywatch, man. I used to love
Baywatch.
catching
I can
Baywatch.
honestly say never seen an episode of Baywatch.
Oh, dude, you're insane. I used to love. My parents wouldn't let me watch The Simpsons, but they would let me watch Baywatch every fucking day. I would get
That's
home
a
from
weird.
school.
That's a weird twist. My parents didn't want me to watch The Simpsons either because Bart Simpson swore in Spanish on the t-shirts. "Ay caramba, dude." So they're like, "Oh, that's the D word in Spanish. You're not watching that." Like, what?
Yeah, they wouldn't let me watch that, but I watched every episode at least 3 or 4 times of Baywatch. So I used to love that show.
Yeah, my parents wouldn't let me watch any of like I said, I couldn't watch The Simpsons, but my dad would watch like Steven Seagal movies with me. Where like
that's the same way we're like my kids aren't allowed to
pop
watch
out of cakes and there was extreme violence.
Yeah, my kids can't watch Bart Simpson, but we watched Die Hard the other night together. So I don't know. And I was like, I'm not going to be like my parents. I'm going to let my kids watch The Simpsons because that's stupid. I'll let them watch like the first 3 episodes. I was like, now I know why. Because it encourages kids to do bad things.
I wouldn't let my kids watch Teletubbies because those things are stupid.
I
don't
couldn't watch
trust that at all.
Teletubbies, SpongeBob, or Barney.
Oh, I love SpongeBob.
SpongeBob we came
eventually you came around
on SpongeBob, but Teletubbies and Barney make kids dumb.
Now my kids only watch Camp Woodward. They've watched every episode of every season of Camp Woodward. It's a skateboarding camp, but it's a good show. All right, let's get into the story. The man in the box, the boy in the box, not the Alice in Chains song reference, but in late February 1957.
Jeez,
it's a long time ago, dude. Is that 66 years ago?
My dad was 1.
There was a guy. This is in Fox Chase, which is just outside of Philadelphia. It's a Fox Chase neighborhood. And he was checking some muskrat traps, some illegal muskrat traps. And he comes across this box in the woods. He opens it up and he says, "Damn, that looks like a fucking dead body. I'm just going to go ahead and leave that alone." So he walks away and doesn't speak about it. 2 days later, another gentleman.
Who doesn't tell anybody about a suspected dead body? I feel like that's innate. Like birds hatch and then they open their mouth to eat and then eventually like they fall out and fly. Like they don't have to like think about it. It's just like what happens. Like I feel like any human that finds a dead human is like, oh, I should tell somebody about this.
Yeah. One time I got a call. I got dispatched to a call that said, I see a post on Facebook that says there is a body behind Weebobs.
Oh, I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah. And sure as shit, there was a dude with a bullet between his eyes behind Weebobs. And it's like, nobody called 911 about it. And there was like 50 people out there like fucking taking pictures of
Isn't
the
that where you
thing
took
and
the killer back?
Yeah, that's when I put the fucking killer in my car. I didn't know he was the killer, and I let him dispose of evidence. I think that's actually in my book. But
I'm glad that worked.
yeah,
out.
this guy, he doesn't contact police because he has several muskrat traps and they're illegal, and he didn't want to bring any heat on his muskrat.
So
traps.
he waited out. He's like, this kid's already dead. So really, does it matter if they find him? I would
Also,
rather
he
have
later
my
on goes
muskrat
on to say
traps.
that he didn't convince himself that it was a body. He just said, "Dan, that looks like a body."
Yeah.
But I don't know for sure if it's a body. I'm just gonna not fuck with it. So I don't know. This is 1957. It's a different world back then, I guess. And a few days later, like 2 days later, at 3:45 p.m. on February 25th, a 26-year-old by the name of Frederick J. Benoit, or Benias, I don't know how to say, fucking whatever. He was a LaSalle College student. And so his story was that he was driving down Susquehanna Road, which is the road that runs right through Fox Chase. And
Where
he
is
sees a rabbit.
where is this at again?
Philadelphia.
Geographically? Okay.
It's just outside of Philadelphia,
Gotcha. Okay.
but it's in 1957 Philadelphia too, right? So probably not as urban as it is now.
Yeah.
So this guy's driving down Susquehanna Road. He sees this rabbit dash out in front of him, and his story is that he knew there were traps in those woods, and he was afraid that this bunny was gonna get captured in one of these traps. So he pulls his car off the side of the road and he takes off chasing after this rabbit through the woods. And he comes across this box with a doll inside of it, a very creepy, eerie doll inside. And so he's like, yep, fuck that, I'm out. And he leaves. Then a few days later, there is a missing girl. A little girl goes missing. And Frederick is like, well, this girl this could have been the girl in the box that I saw instead of a doll. It could have been that girl. So I need to tell authorities. So he calls authorities and lets them know that he saw something strange in the woods that he thought was a doll, but it wasn't. Now the police start questioning this guy pretty big. They're like, so wait, how did you find this box? And the guy's like, there was a bunny, ran out in front of my car. And they're like, really, dude? Like, this is 1957. Like, everybody's a toxic man. Nobody gives a shit about a bunny. So he finally get them to come off of it. And really what was going on was this homeboy was, there was a Good Shepherd school. It was a girls' boarding school called the Good Shepherd. And he would occasionally sneak through the woods up to the Good Shepherd school and spy on the girls. He was just a peeping Tom.
Okay.
Hoping to catch these girls, changing their clothes or something crazy like that. So that ends up being the story. Nonetheless, though, he did find this box, and the authorities go out into the woods, and there is a child inside of the box wrapped in a blanket. And I'm going to show it for our YouTube viewers. If you want to go to YouTube, also I'll post this on our Instagram. So shameless plug, go follow us on Instagram at Failure to Stop. You can see all these pictures on there. But what they find is this particular box right here, which is a JCPenney's bassinet box from 1957. The picture that you see on the screen is just the box with the blanket inside. The body's been removed. There's no body in there. But what they find is the body of a young boy. This is the blanket, what the blanket looked like. But the boy had freshly shaved head, but it was done crudely. So it wasn't done by a professional barber with like electric things. It was like somebody used like scissors to shave this kid's head. And it wasn't skin bald. It was just very, very, very short with scraggly hair. Also, his fingernails had been perfectly clipped. His body was very clean. And he, although it had a lot of bruises and surgical scars on the shins and the groin.
The what?
Although there was no surgery.
Did you put a D on the word groin?
Huh? Groin?
Did you put a D on the word groin?
I could have.
Pretty sure.
You never know. You never know.
I heard it.
But there was surgical scars, and they did an X-ray, and they never found that, like the X-ray, he didn't have any surgeries or anything. So it's very odd that there are surgical scars made by a surgical instrument on his groin and his ankles. Of course, he's got a bunch of bruises too. They also noticed that his fingers are a little bit pruny. His fingertips and his toe tips are pruny, indicating that at some point he had been in water, although it was estimated that he had been in this box in these woods for approximately 4 days, 5 days at the most, and it hadn't rained or anything like that, and there wasn't any water around.
Mm-hmm.
So here are the pictures of the autopsy photos. The kid was malnourished. His ribs were showing through. He was very skinny. And immediately they start the investigation and trying to figure out who this kid is. So at the beginning, investigators, they named the kid John Doe. They were like, we're definitely going to find out who did this because the body's in such perfect condition. It's not like they're taking a picture of a bag of bones. It was cold. It's February. So the body was very well preserved. So they immediately, first thing they do is start trying to find out who has a missing kid in the last 4 days. There's a little boy that went missing from the town mall. And they go and they reach that. And they think that this kid might be it. But the family's like, nope, that's not our kid. They end up finding that kid later on down the road. And the kid was 4 years old. And I believe they found him like in a cabin. The kid had wandered off behind the mall and found a little, like an old rundown house, and then just like taken up, hiding in there, and then probably froze to death overnight inside of that little cabin that didn't exist. So sad that they found that kid. But other than that, they didn't have any missing children in the area or that had been reported. And nobody came forward with that. So next thing that they had was they had this bassinet box, which was a bassinet sold at JCPenney's. So they went to the same local mall where the JCPenney's was, which was in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania on 69th Street in Chestnut. And they were like, hey, have you guys sold any of these bassinets? And between December 5th and February 16th, which was when they had gotten those bassinets, they had sold 12 of them. So pretty good odds, right? We could probably narrow down that one of those 12 bought the bassinet box. We probably know who this child was. But unfortunately, at that time, JCPenney's was cash only. So they were able to identify 11 because they put a poster out that said, hey, if you bought a bassinet between December 5th and February 15th from the JCPenney's, please call this number. I think 9 out of the 12 people called. And after investigation, none of those 9 people, they actually all had the box still, the bassinet box still. So wasn't any of those guys. So it was kind of getting colder and colder, the case, as the weeks kind of went on. And so they decided to post pictures of the autopsy, which had never really been done for a missing child yet. And they just thought because it would be so audacious and so like, oh my God, and so basically humanizing, that somebody would come up. So they made 400,000 flyers of this dead kid. Here is the dead child. This is the information
they
wanted.
Put that
picture.
On the poster.
400,000 copies mailed out, posted around town. I think they mailed out like 300,000. I think I read like 150,000 were actually taken out by volunteers and posted on.
That had to be like quite the dramatic effect to put that out there publicly like that. Oh my gosh. Imagine I can't imagine seeing a dead body face on a poster now, like even in an email, right? Like a police department putting on their Facebook, like, hey, here's this body we found. Who knows who this is? Like, that's wild, man.
Isn't this wild? Like, could you imagine the nightmares? And like, imagine because I have 4 kids and I can my 9-year-old,
my granddaughter seeing this.
My 9-year-old and 8-year-old would just never stop asking questions. Like we listened to a podcast about the Mothman prophecy, and my kids still won't shut up about the Mothman. It's been months, and they're just still asking questions about this Mothman that we've told them does not exist. So I just can imagine what my kids would be saying, like, Dad, what's going on with this kid? Like, Why was he like that? Why are his eyes like that? Why is his ears like that? I mean, just crazy stuff. So this is they post this out and they're thinking, okay, somebody's gotta recognize this boy. I mean, Philadelphia is not that big in 1957. Somebody's going to recognize this child, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like one of the biggest like poster campaigns in Philadelphia at the time. It was actually like a real thing. People had to like stop printing newspapers. It was all hands on deck to figure out who this dead child was. Now, the autopsy came back. He died from blunt force trauma to the head, even though there was no lacerations on the head. But they could tell that it was blunt force trauma to either the back of the head or the back of the neck that killed the child. And he was severely bruised and I guess they thinking that there was sexual abuse too. I'm guessing.
Hey, here's a side note. I did a quick look. This sounds crazy.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm looking at accurate population history of Philadelphia from 1790 to 1990,
mm-hmm.
the 1950s was the most populated Philadelphia has ever been.
Oh,
over 2 million. It was 2,071,605 was the population listed in 1950. By the time you get to 60, it's down to just over 2 million. And then all the way to 90s, it was like 1.5 million. Is declining through the 80s and 90s. Crazy.
That's
so
interesting.
It was actually like peak population.
I was thinking like, because Raleigh's like 300,000 right now. I was thinking like, if they printed 400,000 flyers, that Philadelphia was probably going to be around 800,000 people or something like that.
Yeah.
Damn, 2 million. Crazy. I've never been to Philadelphia, so I'm guessing it's obviously a very large city, bigger than Raleigh. So this does nothing really comes out. Nobody still knows what this boy, but like at this point, everybody is invested in who this fucking child is. Like everybody's like, I want to know who this kid is. And so there was over the investigators went on to like over 100 stores. So next to the body was also a child's hat. And it was like a green hat, and it was a Robin's bald eagle cap. And they were sold at 2603 South 7th Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They went and questioned the shop owner, who was Hannah Robbins at the time, and they learned that it had been customized for a man who had bought it. But according to Miss Robbins, he had been between the age of 26 and 30 with blonde hair and no identifiable accent. And after purchasing the cap with cash, she never saw him again. They visited over 100 stores in the area. Investigators were unable to find anyone who recognized the cap or the boy, thinking that maybe if the kid wore the cap and went into a store to get some candy or get some, but nobody recognized the cap or anything. As they kept hitting dead ends, they posted again, the postmortem photo, which was, I guess viral for the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the first theory was that John Doe must have passed by, that he probably was either like an immigrant from like Hungary, a Hungarian immigrant. There was a lot of Hungarian immigrants at the time, and maybe just, died and there's, not going to be anything. But investigators from the autopsy said no, because the boy had been circumcised and he had been surgically circumcised,
mm-hmm.
which wouldn't have been a practice by Hungarian immigrants. There would have been some like different scarring. And so they went through. Can you imagine being that? Like, hey, we need to figure out if this guy's been circumcised. Well, if you look at these pictures of Hungarian kids who have been circumcised, you'll notice. So like you're looking at tons of child penises that have scars on them, right?
Yeah.
Could you imagine that? And they're like, see, he doesn't have these scars. So it was like he was circumcised in America. So he was born in America. Also, they think that maybe the parents, because of his almost doll-like appearance and the freshly cut fingernails and how bathed he was, and just because he looked feminine in the autopsy, a lot of people speculated that maybe the parents had passed this child off as a female for some reason or another. Now, I don't know why. I mean, in 1957, why that was a theory, but that's not really like, for some reason, it just ran from 1957 till recently. But there's no like, I mean, the kid was, I mean, my kids look very feminine, even though they're skateboarders. I mean, they skateboard like boys, they dress like boys, and still people are like, you have beautiful daughters. I'm like, fuck. So they ended up having to like bury this kid because they're not coming up with anything. Zero, zilch. So they bury him in an unknown grave, and his tombstone read, "Heavenly Father, bless this unknown child." And it was in Potter's Field in Holmesburg, Pennsylvania, next to Mechanicsville and Dunks Ferry Road. I mean, in case you want to go out there, but that was the original resting place. 1958, they believe John Doe, let's see, hang on. Former medical examiner's office employee Remington Bristow felt a personal connection to this case, and he worked hard to find a resolution. In the hopes of coaxing the boy's parents out of hiding, he published a fake story in a local newspaper claiming that his death had been an accident and that his loved ones had been unable to afford a funeral. Unfortunately, this tactic was unsuccessful. So then he put a $1,000 reward from his own bank account with anybody that has information. He traveled to Arizona, Texas in pursuit for leads. He carried a mask of John Doe's face in his briefcase, which is very weird. But this guy was like obsessed with the case. And, but he didn't really, he went to, one of the bigger theories is that he went to a psychic, and the psychic said that she believed that the kid was a foster child. And so this Bristow guy went to the area, and sure enough, there was a foster home there. And he goes to the foster home and sees many, many blankets that are very similar to the blanket that this child had in the box. And so the foster home was 1.5 miles away from where the body was found. And so Remington focused, he believed that John Doe had been the son of Anne Marie Nicoletti and her the stepdaughter of Arthur Nicoletti, the man who ran the home. According to Bristow, Anne Marie, who is said to have been mentally challenged, had 4 children out of wedlock, 3 who had been stillborn, and the other who died after being electrocuted in 1955 outside of a supermarket. It's believed that the boy's death was accidental, and as a result of the family not wanting word to get out, Anne Marie they didn't want anybody to know that Anne Marie was unwed, that they kind of kept the whole death of that child a secret. So in 1960, Bristow contacted a New Jersey-based psychic who told him to look at the house that matched the description that the foster home. When he later brought her to the dump site, she led him directly to the home. Later, upon attending an estate sale at the home, he discovered a bassinet that resembled the one sold at JCPenney's, as well as blankets that looked similar to the one that the boy was found that he was wrapped in. Investigators looked into this over and over and over again, and just, it never came out. Another prominent theory in the case was that he was the victim of human trafficking. And this is the story that's really crazy to me. So this was a story that came out in 2002, but literally this story started out in 1989. There was a woman who goes by the name of M. She wanted to remain anonymous. She says, so let's see here. She told investigators, for one, she told her psychiatrist in 1989 that her mother and father had purchased a child, and her parents were like tenured professors. And she claimed that her parents, her mom specifically, bought a child by the name of Jonathan for the sheer reason of sexual abuse between her mother, her father, and their friends. And she told this psychiatrist that it was like a party favor, and that her parents would take friends down into the basement and show and brag about this child that they had purchased. And they were very rich, prominent people. She claimed that they had physically and sexually abused Jonathan, mainly by the mother, but sometimes the father. This was what she told the psychiatrist. After one night, let's see here. One night, the boy, after being sexually abused, was taken upstairs to get bathed, and the child vomited upstairs. And M remembers seeing beans on the floor. So the kid had vomited up beans. The mom, in a fit of rage, shoved the kid's face down in the vomit repeatedly over and over again until the kid was basically unconscious. She put him in the bathtub to bathe him, only to come back and find that the kid was dead in the bathtub. M says that mom put the child in the back of the trunk of the car with the father, and the three of them drove out to a wooded area and dumped the child in the woods in a box.
What year was this conversation happening? Like this exposition?
1989.
Okay. Wow.
Now, remember we talked about the pruny fingers
Mm-hmm.
and the
bathtub.
well-kept
Yeah.
and the freshly clipped hair and the freshly clipped things. In 2002, somebody, I guess, I don't remember. Let's see. This a decade passed and the boy in the box remained identified. All changed in December of 2022 when investigators in Philadelphia announced that they could finally give it. Oh no, that's right now. Sorry, I skipped ahead. Skipped ahead on there. I'm sorry. In 2009, this woman comes out clean to the cops that she remembers being told this story by M. M tells the story to detectives in 2009, this whole thing. And I'm trying to catch up in my notes here so I can read you exactly kind of what happened here. Let me get to Lady M here. Okay. So Martha, or M, we'll just call her Martha. They're calling her Martha in here, said that her mother picked the boy up from another home and seemingly exchanged him for a sealed envelope. According to M, the boy was kept in the basement where he was forced to use the floor drain for a toilet and sleep in a makeshift bed in an old coal bin. M said that she and the boy were sexually abused by her mother. In her opinion, her mother purchased the boy for the express purpose of abusing him. According to M, her mother ultimately beat the boy to death after he vomited in the bathtub. She then dumped his body in the woods. Although M had a history of mental health issues, her doctor confirmed she first told this story in 1989. However, she was not ready to discuss the incident with authorities. As of the time, the authorities have not verified these details of M's story, and the boy in the box remains America's kept secret. But M ends up coming out in 2009 in the story, and then M goes missing. M is thought to have fled the country at this point. And so they've been unable to identify M. But after a lot of research, well, of course, now we know, because we know who this child is, M was not the, I guess the M would not have been the thing. But that makes you think, was M's story at all real? And I looked into M a little bit more, and they never said what her mental illness was. And I guess the people that they didn't say what kind of mental illness she suffered from. But in 2002 or 2009, mental illness could be ADD, could be bipolar,
Sure,
schizophrenic, could be anything. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of classifications for mental illness. So, she could have been full-blown batshit crazy, or they could just say that she had ADHD. The fact that she fled the country and her whereabouts are unknown after dropping that story to investigators, which the investigators, they tried to match that story up to different cases, and they found this case, and they're like, holy shit, like, this all matches up. The autopsy did have beans in the child's stomach. The autopsy did have the pruny fingers, which would explain the bath, and the clipped fingernails and the freshly kempt hair would all explain this whole story of, making a child look very pretty for guests. M's parents were dead and unable to defend themselves. There's been no charges against them and no proof or no evidence of any of this happening to M's parents. So that's why they keep her name under wraps out of respect for M's, I guess, parents, who may or may not have been pedophiles. But this 80-year-old woman, since the 80s, so since she was in her 60s, has been telling this very strange story that she didn't come off of, which is very scary in my opinion. But let's go ahead and fast forward to now and wrap this whole thing up.
So that was there's a question in the chat, and
okay,
just for the listeners that are just hearing this in your car or wherever you're listening, like we broadcast live on Friday morning, so we address some of the times that people are making comments in the chat. We can't always keep up with that. It's constant. But Amber said, okay, so how many years after the body was discovered did she make this confession? It sounds to me like this is like a 32 year, right? 89.
Yeah.
from 1957 to 1989. So 32 years.
Yep. I'm reading another little article. This is actually from Wikipedia. Probably should have went there a long time ago. But M's mother cut the body's distinctive long hair in an effort to conceal his identity, according to M. M's mother forced her to assist her in dumping the boy's body in Fox Chase area. M said that as they were preparing to remove the boy's body from the trunk, a passing car, a male motorist, pulled alongside to inquire whether they needed help. And M was ordered to stand in front of the car's license plate to shield it from view. While M convinced the would-be Good Samaritan that there was no problem, the man eventually drove off. The story corroborated confidential testimony given by a male witness in 1957 who said that the body had been placed in a box previously discarded at the scene. In spite of the outward plausibility of Martha's confession, police were unable to verify her story. Neighbors who had access to M's or Martha's house during the stated time period denied that there had been a young boy living there and dismissed her claims as ridiculous. But as of recently, some new in 1998, they removed the body. They exhumed the body for the purpose of extracting DNA, which was obtained by a tooth. He was reburied at Ivy Hill Cemetery in Cedar Brook, Philadelphia, which donated a very large plot. The coffin and headstone and funeral services were donated by the son. There was bagpipes, all sorts of things. But it was donated by the son of the man who had buried the boy in 1957, which I think would be Remington. There was a significant public attendance and media coverage at the burial, and the grave has a large headstone bearing the words, "America's Unknown Child." The body was then relifted up. In November 30th, 2022, Philadelphia Police Department announced that they had identified the child through the use of genetic testing and investigating genetic genealogy. So they pulled his body back up in 2019 because there was a new piece of science, a new, genetic, whatever that had come out in 2019. And so there was a society that hunts cold cases, and they wanted to try this genealogy. It's the same stuff that they used to catch the Zodiac killer. I mean, the Golden State Killer. So they pull the body back up, they remove pieces of DNA, they rebury the body, and through maybe 23andMe or Ancestry.com, a gentleman goes back and they are able to say hey man, you did this DNA test for 23andMe, and we have a possible DNA match from a distant cousin of yours. So through his tree, they find that there was a child born. They're not releasing the name of the mom or the dad. Or I guess they have kind of released the name of the mom at this point. But the dad, they have not identified yet. But they did have a child that was born on January 13th, 1953. And that was Augustus Zarelli, Joseph Augustus Zarelli. Now, you remember M said that the child's name was Jonathan. This kid's name is Joseph. Joseph Augustus Zarelli. That's really where we're at right now, is that they have a name to the child. I'm going to show some pictures up there. The press conference last night was very emotional. It was very awesome. They're actually using this DNA on lots of other missing cases. So, look forward to that. But the fact that they have named this boy after 65 years, and now they said that they have suspects. They're just not willing to talk about it because it is an ongoing criminal investigation. Obviously, Zarelli's parents are dead, but they are now questioning all sorts of family members based on this 23andMe, and they have combed through lots of genealogy. They have interviewed lots of family members already. They do have a suspect. They're just not willing to come out with it at this time. But there's definitely some progress in this case, and they're pretty confident that they might not find out a reason why, or maybe even who exactly did it, but they'll at least be able to put together some more logical theories, being that some of the theories were the Hungarian, he was a Hungarian one. There was another theory, and you can go back through. There's so many podcasts about these Another theory was that they found a woman in Colorado who had a daughter that they found was malnourished and had similar scarring throughout her body. And they'd also realized that this woman had been accused of dumping a body in Virginia of a child that froze to death. And they dumped the body illegally in Virginia because they were carnies and they just didn't have any money or the means to bury it. So they thought that this woman could have been, and her last name was Martinez, that this could have been another one of her children that was malnourished and abused by carnies because I guess this Augustus Zarelli, Joseph Augustus Zarelli, was sexually abused according to the autopsy. So there was definitely sexual abuse here before he died, as well as these very weird scars and the bruising on the shins, which is bizarro, right? Like, what do they do? Just beat his fucking shins and then break his neck or, whatever his knock his skull in. I don't know. But I mean, very horrific death for a 4-year-old child. But all those theories are out the window. But I remember listening to podcasts and being like, wow, like, what are the coincidences? It's got to be this Martinez chick. I mean, that makes total sense. Carnies, traveling all around. She already has a history of dumping bodies. Somebody could have been sexually abusing this child. The Hungarian theory. I remember that one, me being kind of sold on that one until they came out with all the snipping, the circumcision evidence and disproving that theory. So all these theories that have come out, none of them include somebody named Joseph Augustus Zarelli. Of course, we don't know Joseph's history. Maybe we find out that there is a Joseph Augustus Zarelli that was in that foster home and that he was a foster kid. We don't know yet, but I think we're going to find out here in the next 6 months. So pretty exciting story. This is a picture, forensic sketch of what he would have looked like before he died. This is the box, and
He
these
looks
will be up
old
on
for
Instagram.
a 4-year-old.
What's that?
He looks old for a 4-year-old to me.
I think everybody looked old in the 50s. Because they use hairspray and shit. But I mean, look at these shins, man. Like, that's heavy bruising. My kids are skateboarders, and their shins are wrecked constantly, but they've never been that wrecked. Like, that's a lot of bruising. Or do you think that's like just because you're dead and your blood settles funny?
It could be. It's hard to tell with these photos for sure.
Yeah. But this is the grave site, and you can see that it's very well kept. It's always been very well kept, and a lot of people visit it because they've always wanted to know who this child was, man. And that's crazy to think that you could find a kid that you can see what he looks like, you can see his face, so much information, but nobody knows who he is. That's wild,
It is crazy. It's crazy. Hopefully everything gets untangled and at least they can clear the case with who did it.
I would like to know who did it, or at least, I was thinking about this all night last night, and I was thinking like, well, what if they do find out that this kid was in Boy Scouts, or what if they find out he was in a foster home, or what if they find out he was in a church school or a regular public school, or they're going to know who this kid was. There's going to be some documentation somewhere along the lines where they can find this name. And then we're going to have a whole bunch of other theories, right? But then, like, if he was in a Boy Scout troop, maybe you can go and find other Boy Scouts that might have served with him. Or if he was in a foster home, we can see who adopted him, and then they can start going after that. But I mean, could you imagine being a detective on this case? Like, it's sad, right? Like, super sad, but it's kind of like a dream come true because now you're getting to be a real investigator. Now you have something to investigate. You have a name. You have a birth date. Don't have a social security number. But we can now go through hospital records, find out, what hospital he was born in. I mean, there was a birth certificate, so they know what hospital he was born in. They know who the mom and dad is. They're just not releasing it yet, which I think that's strange. Do you think that's strange? If they're dead?
It means that they don't want to overplay their hand, I think, just yet. I think that if they release that, I think maybe that would kind of set off maybe some a chain of shuffling that could happen from a potential suspect. Maybe. But it would seem weird to me that someone old enough to kill in that way at that time would even still be alive today.
I don't think so.
I don't know. Still
Just
still
like, how
some
old's your dad? If
questions.
your dad was 4.
He was 1. He was
Your
born
dad
in
was
56.
1. How old is he now?
However old that makes him now, 60, 63.
So then you'd have to add another 15
60s.
years to that. So that would, minimum, the guy would be
62
like,
plus 4. No, 66. Is my dad that old? Yeah, he's 20 years older than me. Crap. He's old.
So he's 66?
Tell your dads you love him, guys.
Is
Not
he
going to be long.
66?
Yeah, he's 66.
Okay, so then minimum, this person would have to be about 15 years old, right? To like reasonably
Likely be alive. Yeah. Could be one of those things too, where who knows what happened after. They could be, there's been people that have been found out to be the perpetrators in cold cases that are, oh yeah, they ended up getting popped for some other crime and died in prison, like, or whatever
Right.
else happened to them after the fact.
Well, today's show was brought to you by iTarget, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, and super excited to be partnered with iTarget because we're big Second Amendment guys. We're toxic men. We love the Second Amendment, but we're also passionate about responsible gun ownership and protecting our families. We just discovered the perfect way to train with your firearm in the comfort of your own home and have a blast doing it. It's called iTarget Pro, and this system is a game changer. All I did was download iTarget's proprietary app, load the laser bullet into my firearm, and start training. Even better, my wife can now practice safely without even needing to leave the house. The system develops muscle memory, reaction speed, sight alignment, trigger control, and much more. Right now, save 10% plus get free shipping with the offer code WOLFPACK when you go to itargetpro.com. With the cost of ammunition through the roof, along with gas to get to the range, this is the perfect solution for you. That's the letter I, targetpro.com. ITARGET pro.com. Offer code WOLFPACK to get you 10%. What an awesome gift for the holiday. And also ghostbed.com. We couldn't, made the good old USA. It's the gift that keeps on giving and giving. I don't have to do an entire ad read today because we do it like 3 days a week. But we love Ghostbed, and we know it's the perfect gift for any first responder. It's also a gift for you because if he's getting a good night's sleep, if she's getting a good night's sleep, then she's happy, he's happy, which makes you happy. Love making in a ghost bed is next level. So go to ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. I think there's like a 40% off deal right now going on Ghostbed. If our promo code isn't good enough for whatever flash sale they have going on through the holidays, because every day they've got a different flash sale going on, drop us in the customer survey. Let them know where you heard us from. Next week, I've got Corrine Tatum, Brandon Tatum's wife, coming on for Last Call to talk about life with Brandon Tatum, with old B Tatum, and how they do all their family stuff and how they manage a family through being first responder to being a social media influencer to being a radio host, all the things. And then next Friday, we have an amazing case where a police officer was indicted for a completely legit shoot where a woman was an active shooter, shot like 3 people, and then shot a police officer, and then engaged another officer in a gun battle, and the officer shot her, but he shot her too many times. And a DA indicted him, and he went through a very long course to get his name cleared. And he has now finally officially been cleared, and he's coming on our podcast next Friday to tell us what life was like being indicted as a good police officer who his friend got shot, and he shot the woman back who shot his friend while she was actively trying to shoot him. Could you imagine? But finally, he's been cleared of that. And,
crazy. I'm excited for that one.
That's going to be good. We were going to do it today, but I pushed it back. I had to push it back. One, because we want to do a little bit more research, and he's sending me a lot of the information that I wanted to get with Elijah to make sure we have it all. And of course, we had this breaking news, and I didn't want to miss Boy in the Box because this is one of those cases, Mike. I love true crime. I love it. So this is one of those cases that I was like, all night last night, I was like, I can't believe they figured out this kid's name. Like, I was just saying his name like all night, like Joseph Augustus Zarelli, man, like, wow. They finally have a name, and I can't wait to see what else comes out of this case. So I wish I was on this team. There's like these Reddit sleuths and everything that are now trying to go through genealogies of their own and trying to find public records. And that's why you get into true crime, is because you can do that. So a lot of the true crime junkies and people in the true crime family are already probably dropping information that they probably shouldn't. That's why I didn't want to say the mom's name, because one of the Redditors did find that name and
Nice.
did release it. But if law enforcement, I don't want to hinder.
It may or may not be accurate.
May or may not be accurate, and I also don't want to hinder law enforcement's investigation just because I can have some clout to say that I solved this. It's fine to go and try to solve it, but I think out of respect and dignity for the investigation and the people who have actually put in the real work for this for years and years, I think out of respect for that, you just keep those cards close to your chest. Maybe tell your friends, but I wouldn't make that public knowledge on the interwebs by any means. But, it is a hobby. Trying to solve these cases is a hobby. That's where Andrea got her thing into true crime. She solved a true crime case that's actually still in trial. And that's why we've never talked about it on the show. But one day when the trial is over, Andrea will be able to tell the whole story about how years ago she started trying to solve a cold case in a particular area. She even went with other Green Berets to interview potential suspects. And they actually found the suspect and an arrest was actually made. So, that's what true crime is kind of all about. It's what the whole lure and attraction to it is all about is that. So cool case, man. I'm excited for next week. You ready for off the cuff tomorrow?
Be ready. We'll be going live 8:45 a.m. for the members. So that's members only, baby, for the live stream tomorrow, and the full audio will be out Monday. But yeah, somebody asked if I was gonna rant about Brittany Griner tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see what comes up. I've got a lot of interesting stories for tomorrow, but
dude,
yeah,
the FedEx.
I don't know.
Are you gonna bring up the are you gonna bring up the FedEx guy?
FedEx guy
who allegedly backed into the 7-year-old girl and was afraid. I mean, dude, did you see what he told the police?
No.
You don't know the FedEx story?
No.
Oh, let's just talk about it really fast. We still have a few more minutes, but a FedEx driver kidnapped a 7-year-old girl while delivering packages and drove her down the road and killed her. And so this girl went missing. And of course, with all the Ring cameras and everything, they were able to figure out that it was the FedEx dude, and they made an arrest very quickly. But they just released the news also last night on his statement. Now, I don't have his statement in front of me, so I'm just going to loosely do this. I encourage you to go out and look up the story yourself. But basically what he said was, in his statement, was that he accidentally was backing out and he bumped the girl and hit her. And he put her in the back of the truck because he didn't want to get fired for hitting this girl this close to holidays, and he panicked. And then she started talking to him and was like, "What are you doing?" Then he realized he was kidnapping her and that he had really fucked up. So then he realized he had to kill her. So he
No, you could just let her go. Or you could just take her back.
You could just let her go and be in a lot less trouble. So he tries to break her neck, but it doesn't work. And now she's screaming and everything. So then he tries to strangle her. And that doesn't work. So he has to pull over and take her out. I don't know how he inevitably kills her, but he, that's his story, is that he killed her out of fear. So what a piece of shit.
That's not a story. He did that all on purpose. You don't know. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. No. He planned that.
I mean, I guess he planned it. I wonder how long I guess I'd want to know how long has he been a FedEx driver? I guess where did the temptation to start? Has he done it before? He looks kind of young.
Probably hasn't done it before if he screwed it up that bad. Jeez.
Right. But what would be the build up to that? Like you don't just go from zero to, maybe you do. Maybe you're just like a horny pedo and you just see a child and it's just a crime of opportunity. You've got your FedEx truck and you just shove her in there. But I would have gone with the story as like, I accidentally backed into her and it killed her. And I just wanted to make sure she was dead. So then I strangled her. So that way, at least you have like an argument in court of how she died. Like I accidentally hit her versus I hit her. She wasn't dead. So then I tried to bludgeon her to death and break her neck. And that didn't work. So then I tried to strangle her and that didn't work. And I had to pull over and like really finish the job off like in this wooded area or whatever. Yeah. Like, I feel like you fucked yourself on all chances of having any kind of argument. I think I would have just said, I fucking backed over her. And then I just wanted to make sure she was dead. So I choked her.
Mm-hmm. Jeez.
Yeah, I thought you'd be talking about that because that's pretty big news. Because
that's more true crimey. I don't know.
You let your kids play out. Like everybody's letting their kids play out in the front yard and everything. And you don't expect the FedEx driver or the Amazon package deliverer to snatch up your child
No, you don't.
in the work vehicle.
Nuts.
I said that like FedEx, in order to like save face, needs to just go like on this whole campaign of like relaunching Castaway. Just to save face.
Oh my
Like,
god.
hey guys, remember we're awesome. We have the movie Castaway. Because that's pretty bad.
FedEx never gets anything to my house on time. I'll tell you that.
Dude, FedEx is the worst out of all of them.
They are.
They are
They are absolutely the worst out of all
They're
of them.
awful.
And like, how are they still a thing? If they suck so bad, why did people sleep? I don't use FedEx, period. I use UPS. I use the Postal Service, which used to suck, and the Postal Service doesn't so much suck anymore. But I'll refuse. Like, I hate when people send shit FedEx. I'm like, oh my God, I'm never gonna get this fucking package. I guess is FedEx just the cheapest?
I don't know. I had no
FedEx
idea.
is expensive.
It's just the most unreliable out of all of them.
100%.
Yeah. Well. All right, guys. That's all I got for you today.
All right. Well, giddy up.
Guns up. Giddy up. Until next time.
Until next time.